Good morning, church. It is exciting to be here once again in a God's house with God's people. Whatever it's two or three, the Holy Spirit, God's going to be with us. Sermon this morning, I gave information, but my friend Emmanuel, he lost it somehow, somewhere. Title of the sermon is In the Storm with Jesus. I love stories of Jesus, and I love true stories. Thank you, Wayne, for the story about the fire. And if you remember, one Sunday morning, my brother-in-law Mike and I, we were burning some branches, and it was a huge pile, so we started the fire, went to eat breakfast, and the fireman called me. He went by and he says, "Denny, you burning something? It's a lot of smoke." I say, "Yeah, I'm burning, everything's under control." He goes, "Well, I see a lot of smoke." And I said, "Okay, thanks for calling." And I was eating my breakfast, and I'm thinking, a lot of smoke? What does he mean by a lot of smoke? I went looking through the window. Lo and behold, the whole forest is under fire. No wonder why he called me. Do you think I went continue eat my breakfast? No, we all ran out to get this fire out. So sometimes we have to be careful what we're doing, where are we going, and things like that. I'm going to read once again scripture, and I'm going to read from verse 35, 37, 38, and 39. And if you want to follow me, it's Mark 4, verse 35, 37, to 39, Mark 4. And I want you to follow me. On the same day when evening had come, he said to them, "Let us cross over to the other side." Verse 37, and a great windstorm arose, and the waves beat into the boat, so it was already filling. But he was in the stern, asleep on a pillow. And they awoke him and said to him, "Master, do you not care that we are perishing?" Then he arose and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, "Peace, be still." And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. What would Jesus do if the storm seems to be uncontrollable? What would Jesus do if the nature went against you? But we have answer for that. We just read. Answer is Jesus would calm the storm. Jesus is powerful. Jesus is one who created the water. He's the one who created the nature. So nature listens to him. Jesus is all powerful, even in the middle of the storm. I'm going to be telling you a little bit my stories too. I never been in a real storm, but I seen coming, but I never been in a storm. I'm not bragging. I'm thankful God that I wasn't in a storm. And I'm sure some of you maybe were in a storm. When we were with Kenneth Cox, I already told you guys that typhoon is coming over Guam. supposed to be landing at 7 o'clock afternoon, just when we need to start Sunday 7. And I never knew nothing about typhoon. I never was afraid, or I never understood what it means. 180 to 200 miles an hour wind. That's what was coming. So Saturday night we were preparing in a gymnasium where we were going to have evangelistic meetings. And pastor were coming, say, Ken, what we going to do? Storm, typhoon is coming, and it's going right over Guam. And Guam is the path for typhoon. And never miss. I was standing before that when I arrived. I was standing on one foundation. I had no idea. I know looks like there was house there. And the pastor's son, he came, he says, Denny, that used to be my dad's and our house 2 years ago. Typhoon took it away. So they were going to shut the power off. So nobody can get hurt, because a lot of people got hurt when power is down. And so they were coming Saturdays evening, and we had 7 pastors out there in Guam, and they were scared because they had experience. So, Ken, what are we going to do? He goes, I don't know yet. We just have to speak and talk to God and ask Him. And about around midnight, I noticed that gymnasium is so huge and big, and I saw Ken was walking around against the wall. And I wasn't thinking, or I didn't have no brains at the time, what he was doing. I came to him, but he really liked me. He says that I helped him in his ministry. So I went to him and I said, Ken, what are you doing? He turned around, he says, I'm talking to God. Oh, you know how I felt? Very small. I turned around and walked away. He was talking to God. Tell him, Lord, what are we doing here? But anyway, to make a long story short, we prayed that night that storm wouldn't be there. And I know Ken prayed. He says, Lord, you brought us here to preach. There were so many people coming from different islands. We don't want no typhoon. I'm asking you, Lord, to turn that typhoon 180 degrees. That was his prayer. I'll never forget that. Well, Sunday morning, typhoon turned around 180 degrees. Sunday morning. I'm telling you that because that was my experience. I seen it with my eyes and I heard. So the news people and the television people did not understand. So the pastor called the television, said, well, we had pastor from United States. He prayed and told God to turn the storm away. And the television's, whoever person was, said, well, we want that man right now to see what kind of a man that is that can turn the storm around. So we said, Ken, well, you got to go. It's not you. So he goes, yeah, I have to go and explain to the people on radio or on TV. And he did. He said, folks, it wasn't me. It was God who did. So that was one story. And at the very beginning, we had about 12 to 1,300 people coming. And at the end of 5 weeks, 565 people were baptized. So it worked. So On the water side of the Galilee, Jesus was preaching all day. Preaching, healing, and Jesus was doing what he loved to do. People were listening to him preach because Jesus was talking in parables so everyone could understand. The little children like this probably would understand what he was talking about. The elderly people, people that maybe don't have much education, they will understand him. You didn't need no theology. You didn't need no teachers. You didn't need professor to understand. People were listening to him, what he was saying. I had opportunity to go to the Holy Land 30 years ago, and I didn't go for whatever reason. I don't remember. And then 10 years ago, Jim Gilley was telling me at the Kenneth Cox board meeting, he said, Denny, I am organizing 3A band to go to Jerusalem. How about you and your wife come? We're going next year. I said, great, I'm going. I forgot about, didn't call back, and I didn't go. And I regret every minute. And I'm sure I'm not going to go now. I don't think it's appropriate to go. Neither would anybody go at the moment. After last sermon, the day that Jesus was preaching, he asked his disciples to take him on the other side of the lake. I would love to see that Lake of Galilee, and I don't know if I'll ever have opportunity to see it again. Maybe, maybe not. Jesus was tired, not from preaching, not from anything else, but you know what he was tired from? Criticism. People were picking the words and twisting the words, trying to make him feel bad, trying to embarrass him. That's what they were doing. So he was tired. I'm sure you've been in situation criticized. I know I have, for something I didn't do or something I didn't say. That gets you tired. That gets you exhausted. So Jesus went immediately on the back of the boat, and he found a cushion, a pillow, whatever you call, and he went to sleep. And he went to sleep immediately because he was very tired. Now we know there were little boats next to Jesus' boat. So Jesus' boat obviously was a little bit larger than the other boats. Maybe there were some fisher boats. But I can imagine disciples were with Jesus and maybe some other people. So there was a little bit larger boat. While they were crossing the lake, they got into a very bad storm. Disciples probably tried to control the boat or ship, whatever it was at that time. They could not. I can see Peter was there too. He was probably running around. You know, Peter, he always thinks he's in control of everything. That reminds me. The water was already filling the boat. They were scared. I would be scared too. I remember one time my wife says, at the time my in-laws was still living, she goes, honey, why don't we take our parents in a boat and go across the Lake Michigan to Michigan side. Michigan side is beautiful, very beautiful, clean water, sand. let's take our parents over there. And I said, sure, let's do that. But if you know Lake Michigan, some of you that know Lake Michigan can turn on you against very quickly. So we got into, I launched my boat southern of Chicago, south side of Chicago. And as we got into boat, I filled up with the fuel, make sure it wasn't very long distance. But I said, let's go. As we were going further, wind started. Windy, 2-3 waves. My wife said, maybe it's not a great idea to go right now. And you know me, that's, what is it, 2-3 waves? That's nothing. We're going to go to Lake Michigan side. I love there. We go a little further, there's 4 or 5 waves, 4 or 5 foot. So my wife seen a 6 or 7 foot wave coming pretty far away. She says, you better turn that boat around. Let's go back. I don't want to perish here with my parents. Well, when I seen that wave out there, I turned around very quickly. I went back to a dock, put the boat back on the trailer, did not go. And I'm glad I listened to my wife. It was pretty bad. It was like 10 to 12 feet waves on Lake Michigan. And 25-foot boat for Lake Michigan, it's a toy. It's a toy. I had once 45-foot coming from Muskegon, and there was 12-footers wave. I had to turn around and go back. It's just not a match for the Lake Michigan. Once disciples realized there were no match for a powerful storm, they were afraid, they were scared, and they were looking for Jesus, and they found him sleeping on a pillow. And they said, Master, don't you care? Are we going to perish? The boat is already filling with water. Now, if you notice, they said, Master. They didn't call him teacher at that time. At that time, you don't need the teacher. You don't need professor. You need somebody who can do something. So they call him a master. And what did Jesus do? He stood up straight and command. What did he say to the storm? Quiet, be still. And immediately the sea became calm, the waves listened to him, the wind listened to him. Everything was nice and calm. And what did he do? He turned around and he said, oh, don't you have any faith? Now, Jesus was not afraid and scared because he was in touch with his Father. He knew that his Father would take care of him and them. So he wasn't worried about it, but disciples were scared. At that time, if I was there, I probably would be scared too. Now, the one writer says, in the Lake of Galilee, at that time, the wind was 50 miles an hour, gust 125. And they said, when you have wind 74 miles an hour or higher, it's a storm. That's a hurricane. So this is no match for the boats to be on the water. Jesus wanted to go to the other side to find a place where he can rest. And I told you, rest not from his preaching, rest from criticism. And praying for those out there that were against him. There was a little boy flying in a plane. I had the privilege to fly more than I really wanted to, and I've been in many storms. Well, let me tell you, you pray like never before when you're in a heavy storm. But little boy was sitting on the front of seat, reading his little book, coloring book, and they came into turbulence, heavy turbulence. And people were scared. They were so scared. They were grabbing the seats and they're holding the seat. They don't know if the plane goes down, the seat goes down too. But when you're scared, you don't think. You're just holding tight. So when they landed and they were coming out, they were asking the little boy, how come you were not so scared? You were peacefully sitting there reading your book while we all were scared. He goes, well, my father is a pilot. He promised me he's going to take me home. So he wasn't scared. He didn't care if turbulence were there. He believed in his Father. That's how Jesus believed in his Father. So he was not scared. Once we were flying, my wife and I, from Mexico, beautiful day, 80-some degrees, sunny. You know, at that time you always wish you have a couple of more days to stay there, but no, you don't. And as we crossed Gulf Mexico, beautiful, we got into United States. It was dark, stormy. We got into turbulence. Really, really bad for 2 hours. My wife was sitting on the left. She always liked to sit next to window. I don't know why. Maybe she thinks she'll get some fresh air. But, you know, to me, I like aisle side so I can get out anytime I want to. So we got into storm, and she said it was worst ever. But for me, I had a lot worse than that. That time, I didn't think of anything. That plane was kind of half empty, so I left it there. I went across the aisle. There was 3 empty seats. I lay down. I buckled myself. I was sleeping like a baby. Every time planes stop storms, I wake up. Turbulence come back on, I went to sleep. I don't know why. I just enjoyed it. I wasn't afraid. I prayed before we left. I prayed when we got in the plane. We prayed all the time. I wasn't afraid. One time we were flying from Chicago to Sacramento. As we got in, my wife got the right window. Usually I get aisle. This time I got middle seat. People are scared. So one lady came next to me, so we exchanged the name. I don't know what that was. That was a long time ago. And as we were taxiing and ready to take off, she grabbed my left hand. And she said, you don't mind if I hold you? Can you hold my hands? I am so scared. I never fly in my life. So what do? I give her my hand left, and I'm holding, so I'm turned, and my wife is out there looking, what's going on? What's happening out there, you know? And I can't explain. I am too far away, you know. I can't explain what's going on. But she kind of figured it out. She was so scared. When we went flying, nice, I said, we are okay now. I wanted to tell her, let my hand go. When she let my hand go. My hand was white. You know what that means? No blood, no circulation. That's how scared people are. When you don't have God in your life, you are scared. Jesus never promised there won't be no storm. He never promised there won't be smooth ride to church. Matter of fact, storm sometimes comes in the church. Yeah? It comes in the church. But what did Jesus say? I'll be with you. That's the promise that Jesus said. I believe that verse, I want to read that verse. It's Matthew 28, verse 28, I think verse 20. Yes. Teaching them to observe all things that I have commanded you, and lo, I am with you always, even to the end of age. So what do we have to worry about it? This world is in the storm today, all over the world. Do we have to worry about it? No, let's not worry about it. Jesus did not promise that there won't be no storm, but he promised, I'll be with you. If he's with us, who can be against us? So, are we in a storm today? What kind of storm are we in? What kind of wind blows around us? What kind of water is filling our boat? We should never be afraid, for Jesus is in every storm with us. Every storm. He will calm every storm whenever you ask him. You know, sometimes if people, even I'm talking about Christian, if we are not in a storm, if everything goes smooth, when are we going to call God? When are we going to call Jesus to be with us? Probably not much. But when we are in a storm, when we go on a plane, whatever, oh yeah, I'm going to pray. I want to make sure that Jesus is with me. We should ask him to be with us. We should fly. We should be just like a little boy. He was flying through the turbulence. He wasn't afraid because his father was in control. He was flying. So the little boy was not scared because he know my dad is flying. He's going to take me home. He promised to take me home. We should always remember Jesus is in charge of our storm, flight. He will take us out of the storm. Sometimes we try ourselves to get us out of the storm. And you know what? It doesn't work. I tried it many times myself to do some things. It doesn't work very well. But when you call on God, when you call on Jesus, he will come. And if we don't do that, then of course we're going to be in storm. There's one little book that Ellen White wrote, and it's called, it's called, I didn't know, TMK. If you know what that means, TMK, it means that I may know him. And that's on page 358. It says, God leaves us on the earth to encounter storms and conflicts, to perfect Christians' characters, to become better acquainted with God, our Father, and Christ, our elder brother, and to do the work for the Master in winning many souls for Christ. So sometimes we need some kind of storm in our lives that we can be closer to God, closer to Jesus. Satan knows there is very little time left on this life, on this earth. And we see what's happening in the world. He's trying to do everything is possible to kill everyone. But if we call on Jesus, he will come, he will comfort us, he will take us out of control. May God bless you. That's all I have for you today. May God bless you through this next week. And to be happy, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. And we'll see you hopefully next Sabbath.